How's everyone doing today, YouTube? Dr. C3 here, and today we're going to be bringing you a draft recap video for the CPL Season 1, the Competitors Pokemon League. Today I figured I'd try and go a little bit different without the face cam. This will help me focus a little more on, what to talk about for each Pokemon. And also, this is an experimental process. I'm trying to figure out what's working, what's not working. So who knows, maybe the next video the face cam will be back. But for now, we're going to rock without it. So, jumping in, we'll get right into it. Jumping in, this league is essentially a mimic of the WBE. So, we would have 12 rounds in which we draft 11 Pokemon and a Z Crystal. We are limited to how many Pokemon we're supposed to draft, so we have to draft per tier. I'll go a little bit more into depth of tiers as we go through the picks. But to kick it off, I had a first overall pick in the CPL here, so I grabbed Tapu Lele. Now, Tapu Lele in most leagues is typically banned, and that's why I figured if I grab it now, this might be the only chance I ever get to use it. So I thought that was pretty cool. Psychic Surge ability sets up the Psychic Terrain, giving a 50% stab bonus, or not stab bonus, but boost to Psychic moves if you're grounded. And to top it all off, it stops priority moves coming your way and going towards the opponent as well. I think with a base 95 speed, it's a little bit lackluster for a first round pick. However, this thing hits hard. You can see here 130 special attack stat. You go modest nature here. You're really hitting some opponents hard, especially with a psychic and fairy stab bonus. And not to mention the move pool coverage. I think this is the reason why it gets banned. Just look at its special move coverage. It gets things like Energy Ball, it gets Moonblast, it gets Focus Blast, it gets Nature's Madness, it gets Shadow Ball, it gets Thunder. What really switches into this monster? That's for certain. Now to give you some more spoilers, in the 7th round, I believe, I did draft my Psychium Z Crystal. This is going to allow me to, hit my psychic moves a little bit harder with my Tapu Lele. And moving forward, there are a couple Pokemon that can abuse this Psychium Z as well. But we'll get into that a little bit later. So I figured, good overall first round pick. The only thing that Tapu Lele can't really take down, unless you run Hidden Power Fire, is solid steel type. So I figured, what is the steel type killer? And somehow Excadrill came to me second round. Now looking at Excadrill, it's one of those Pokemon that always gets picked up in every draft league, and it always goes typically first round. So to see it fall at the end of the second round, I thought that it was a steal. With 3 great abilities, Sand Rush, Sand Force, and Mold Breaker. So if you find a Pokemon to abuse it with the sand, it can be just a monster sweeper. But that ground steel stab is something to not scoff at. Can really take down those steel types. It's got a great move coverage. Earthquake, Iron Head, Stone Edge, and Rapid Spin. You're typically going to see those moves every week. However, if you want to run a defensive set, with that base 110 HP, because in the Draft League format, we have an 88 speed, but you can really customize that. So you can speed creep mons. So let's say you have 152 in speed, and you're just all invested in your attack stat. Well, that means you can throw 104 in HP, and you can tank a couple more hits that you typically wouldn't. I think that's just a huge asset to Excadrill, and not to mention, if you do run a Focus Sash set, or I'm sorry, I don't know where I'm going with Focus Sash. I don't know why that was there. It can be an Assault Vest user. It can be a good Scarfer. With items, it's just a devastating Pokemon. Like I said, the ability to Rapid Spin is not something, is going to help Tapu Lele's longevity. And it can set up Stealth Rocks. It can Swords Dance. It can Toxic. Be a toxic lead. It's a good lead Pokemon. I think it's just going to benefit Tapu Lele. That's the main goal of this team, is what helps Tapu Lele win. What supports Tapu Lele the best. So that's where we segue into our third pick coming into the, first pick of the third round. We grabbed Araquanid. Now, Honestly, for a tier 2 Pokemon, I thought that Araquanid was a little bit, overvalued. However, I wanted it. I wanted it really bad. I think the Water Bubble ability, reducing Fire-type attacks, going towards Excadrill, and doubling the power of Water-type moves is something to, not joke about. Choice Banded Liquidations hit hard with this Pokemon. It has very lackluster attack. However, it can really tank hits with its defense and its special defense. It has no good form of reliable recovery except for, I believe it gets Aqua Ring. Yeah, it does get Aqua Wing. And it can run a... Oh, I'm sorry, it can't run Whirlpool. Never mind. But the main niche move, Sticky Webs. Speed controls everything, and Tapu Lele with that 95 base speed really needs Sticky Webs to support it. So that's truthfully why I picked Araquanid. But the ability to sponge those Fire-type hits for Excadrill, I thought it was a good team synergy there. And going into my next pick, which also, helps out taking those Bug-type attacks, is Shaman. So Shaman, I thought, coming in at the late 4th round, headed my way. Truthfully, I did want a Tangrowth. However, Tangrowth got sniped to the pick right before me, so I figured Shaman's a good second. It's one of the Pixies, so base 100s across the board. Can really mold to be defensive. It can be special offensive. It can be physically offensive. The typical moves, you're going to see Assault Vest on it a lot. You're going to see Leftovers a lot. You might see a Life Orb set. You might see a Rocky Helmet set. I don't know. I don't know how much I'm going to run it that way. Natural Cure makes it so it has a really good niche in Rest Natural Cure. So you get the sleep, and then Natural Cure, you get to take it out. I think that's a pretty cool move. And it also gets Healing Wish, and that makes it so Tapu Lele and Excadrill will have even more longevity in case it gets hurt. Early on in the match, I can Healing Wish, sack Shaman, and Tapu Lele comes back at full. Excadrill comes back at full, has another chance to sweep, has another chance to wall break. Shaman, those two, I thought that, it was good team support there. It also gets Aromatherapy too. A nice Cleric ability. I don't know how much I'm going to use Aromatherapy on Shaman, but we have it if we need it. And it's Prime and Seed Flare, boosting or 120 special attack. Jeez, it's incredible. 40% chance to lower the target special defense by 2 stages. This really makes it so that if I get a Seed Flare drop on an opponent and Tapu Lele comes in, nothing takes the hit. It really doesn't. And like I said, moving forward, the core focus was what makes Tapu Lele the best, and I thought that Shaman has a lot of niche supports, and to top it all off, its base stats for a tier 3. You can't go wrong there. And also, look at its shiny form. That nice little blue hair. Alright, we're done talking about shiny Pokemon. On to pick number 5. Now, pick number 5 is going to be a little bit confusing because it went through a little bit of a remolding process in the team. I can tell you, since the draft, Muck has been dropped for a Pokemon, which has then been dropped for another Pokemon. So I'll go through that history. My initial thought process was that Alolan Muck was going to come in, take those poison type attacks that Tapu Lele doesn't want to take and Excadrill doesn't want to take. Let's say if it's something that can run stat poison with some ground coverage. Muck was sort of there to take it a little bit. It also takes those dark type attacks well. Knockoff and the abilities Poison Touch and Gluttony really giving it longevity with the Figgy Berry, I believe it is. Yeah, the Figgy Berry. So it's a good Pokemon overall, but my issue is I thought that it was a tier 3 and it ended up being a tier 2. So for me to pick up Muck and Araquanid really hindered my free point total moving forward in the draft. So I figured, I needed to fix that at some point in my draft. So I'll tell you right now, I dropped a Muck for Chansey. And Chansey was also a tier 2, but I thought later on in the draft, you'll see my Mega coming up. Chansey added a little bit more support with Wish, so Wish passing, and it can really be that Cleric, that Heal Bell Cleric that people want, and it also has Healing Wish, something to note there. That Eviolite gives it insane bulk. Really, Tapu Lele's 4 times resistance to fighting, same with Araquanid's resistance to fighting, really helped out Chansey in my eyes. But we'll talk about Chansey and what had happened to it later on. So next up we had Miltank. Now, moving forward, Miltank, I needed speed, and it was one of those base 100s again, and I thought that Miltank sitting there around 6, someone was going to take it. Has 3 great abilities in Thick Fat, Scrappy, and Sap Sipper. Most of the time I'm going to probably use it as a Thick Fat set. However, you might see some tech Sap Sipper with like a Fire Punch to boost its attack and hit some steel types that maybe Tapu Lele can't really check. Who knows? Mostly we're going to see it Rocky Helmet or Leftovers. That's going to be the set. Has pretty good self-recovery in Milk Drink, and also is another heal beller. Clerics are important for a team, especially in Draft League, and it can set up those Stealth Rocks, so something to alleviate the Stealth Rock pressure for Excadrill. Most of the time you're going to see it, running physical moves, maybe a Zen Headbutt or a Body Slam, something for paralysis or flinch chances. Other than that, a pretty cool Pokemon. That's really all that I wanted to say about Miltank. It's just overall fat cow, fat fast cow. That's the theme of Miltank there. So now we're gonna jump into round 7, and I thought to myself, I need something that could alleviate the ground pressure, because at the time I also had Muck. So I had Excadrill and Muck that was both weak to ground type attacks, and I said I need a Bolt Turner. I need something that is immune to ground type attacks, and Rotom was sitting there in tier 5, and I thought to myself, Rotom is a fantastic Pokemon. All the Rotom forms typically get some love. I know Rotom Fan and Rotom Frost don't in tier 5, and now in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon with the ability to defog, a good defogger in round 7 in tier 5, you couldn't go wrong there. You can take those fighting type attacks that Miltank didn't want to take, along with Excadrill, it didn't want to take that as well. I know we had a 4 times resistance with Tapu Lele, but again, the type synergy I thought was pretty good there. Base 91 speed, good speed tier. It's not really the speed tiers that I necessarily want, but I think with Sticky Webs, a base speed of 91 can really put in the work. And like I mentioned before, it's going to run the Volt Switch, it's going to run things like Thunder Wave, and it can even be a good choice Scarf lead with Trick. A lot of people see the Trick set with Rotom, so it could be a good Scarfer, it can be a good Assault Vest user, it can really take those sponges like special flying type attacks that want to go towards Shaman or whatever. And there might be a point in time where I do run a choice specs, who knows. Shadow Ball, Stab, Shadow Ball. I think it's the least resistant move in the game. Ghost type attacks, so you can't go wrong with Shadow Ball spam. Dark Pulse, Will-O-Wisp is a good niche tech move. I forgot about Will-O-Wisp. So yeah, pretty cool. And things with Electro Web, or I'm sorry, not Electro Web, Electro Ball. If I get the speed boost up and I get the Sticky Webs up, Electric Ball could be hitting even more than Thunderbolt, so that's something to note there. So up next, now this is why I talked about Alolan Muck getting dropped and Chansey getting picked up, because I drafted Mega Sableye. Now, for those of you who don't know, Mega Sableye in Draft League format can be a powerhouse. That Magic Bounce ability essentially nullifying any Pokemon that want to try and, set hazards on me, whether it be Toxic Spikes, Sticky Webs, Stealth Rocks, whatever comes at my way, status moves, I'm just going to tank those, and I'm going to bounce them right back, which is always a great asset to have. Speed, like I said, really, really not good, but its defenses and, its dual typing makes it so that it's only weak to Fairy types, which, as you can tell from before, we can really tank Fairy type attacks with Excadrill, with Lele, with Araquanid, with, Miltank can even take them pretty well. Something to note there. It could be specially attacking and physically attacking depending on how you want to run it. It does get some niche moves. I've seen it once used by A-Drive It had Fire Punch to combat a Mega Scissor. It was Adamant, Mega Sableye one-punched, it one-hit or I should say it O-code a Scissor from full. A Mega Scissor, might I add. You know, that's pretty good. Otherwise, you see it in standard format, known as the Coal Mine Recover set. Shadow Ball, Dazzling Gleam, Bow Play. It gets a lot of good moves. It gets a excuse me. It gets a lot of good moves. Another Will-O-Wisp setter. It can taunt, but a slow taunt isn't always appreciated that well. Confuse Ray. It's got some good status moves. People know what Sableye does, and I think paired with Chansey and paired with the rest of the team to really tank those hits, it just benefits. So moving forward, I told myself, Gigalith is still sitting here. It's a tier 3. You know, it's round 11, or no, I'm sorry, it's round 10 at this point. I should pick up Gigalith. It sets the stand for free for Excadrill. So most of the time, it is going to be running that Smooth Rock, which I truthfully don't mind because look at its just overall bulk. It's got 130 in defense, it's got 85 in HP, and to top it off, it can hit hard. You know, a Choice Banded Gigalith can punch some holes through a team, and it's got good coverage. It's got Earthquake. You know, it's got Heavy Slam. Nothing really wants to take a Heavy Slam from a Gigalith. Look, it's really, really heavy. That's all I have to say about that. It's really heavy. The Rock Polish sets, they're there, but it's so slow that I don't think it's going to really be able to abuse the Rock Polish. But it can Toxic. If it wants to be AB, it can. It can Iron Head if it doesn't want a Heavy Slam. If, you know, it's going up against something a little bit stronger. Fighting, it gets Super Power for those heavy hits. And the Stab Rock with Smackdown can really be beneficial, and the Stab Rock with just Stone Edge if you really want to be risky there. That's all I have to say about Gigalith. Toxicroak coming in at round 11. Poison and Fighting type with two pretty good abilities in my eyes. Poison Touch and Dry Skin. I don't really think I'm going to be utilizing the Anticipation ability. I could be wrong. Maybe it might come 1 week, if that. Toxicroak was really there because I told myself I need something to punch a couple more holes in Steel types. I have Excadrill, that's great. Gigalith is weak to Steel. I needed something else to just put that extra effect in. So that's why we grabbed Toxicroak in tier 4. There wasn't really a lot of other good fighting types that had the same, like, different speed tier. You always want to diversify your speed tiers in a draft league format solely so you can team prep, and it forces your opponent to run maybe Timid or Modest or Timid or Jolly. Other than that, it's got a lot of good priority, and I think since I'm the one who has control over priority, you know, not a lot of people are going to be bringing it, and I can bring Toxicroak and really punch some holes, or throw some, yeah, punch some holes within the team with Bullet Punch, with, I think it gets Vacuum Wave too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it gets Vacuum Wave and Bullet Punch, so can hit on either side. It's got good stab on either side. You know, if we look at all its fighting moves, it's got Vacuum Wave, like we just mentioned. It's got Cross Chop. It's got Brick Break if we need it. It's got Low Sweep. It even has Focus Blast if we want to try and hit a Focus Blast or a Focus Miss, as people like to call it. And that Poison type. You know, it does get Gunk Shot, which is a strong Poison type attack. You know, if you're not going up against the Steel, it's gonna really hurt. Stab Gunk Shot is no joke, especially coming off of a 106 attack stat. That's not bad. It's not bad at all. And to round out our draft, I figured we have a relatively slow team with our highest speed being both Miltank and Shaman at 100. So we grabbed Ninjask. I know I had Sticky Webs, and I know I already have a Bug type, and I know I already have some rock weaknesses, but Sableye has Magic Bounce, we have Excadrill and Rotom to get rid of hazards. So why not get the speed boosting, baton passing monster that is Ninjask? It's not going to come to many weeks. But with the Focus Sash, you know, that's all it needs, really. Focus Sash, you come in, you know, if there's no hazard set up, maybe Protect, get an extra speed boost, pass that off to Lele, pass that off to Excadrill, pass that off to, I don't know, pass it off to Shaman if it wants to be an offensive Shaman 1 week, pass it off to Araquanid. Araquanid could really use the speed boost. It has potential. It's like I said, it's not going to come to every match, but I needed to fill out one more tier 5 pick, and Ninjask was there. I thought to myself, it's either that or Combustion, and I already have a fighting type in Toxicroak, and you know, that's that. So, with all that said, before I leave, I just want to go back on Chansey here real quick, because like I mentioned, I know this is spoilers, but I didn't bring Chansey week 1, and I already dropped Chansey. I'm recording this after my week 1 matchup, so you'll be able to see that in a few days, hopefully. I decided that Chansey wasn't a great fit for the team because I already have Miltank. And Miltank's a tier 4 and Chansey's a tier 2, and Miltank can do a lot of what Chansey can do aside from Wish. So I told myself, I need a support Mon, and I need something that can really fit a lot of roles. And I looked at the tiers left over from after the draft, and I told myself, so Valley is sitting there as a tier 3, and it can be any type. It's got base 95s. I know that's the same speed tier as Lele, but it gets a great move in Parting Shot. And Parting Shot allows me to effectively switch out into my threats, Excadrill, Lele, Shaman, Gigalith, Araquanid, whatever, and make sure that the next hit that comes its way, it's not going to really dent it, and it can fire back mean hits. Not to top it off, also to top it off, because of the RKS ability, it can run the memories and be effectively any type. So I can be physical, any type. So let's say 1 week I want to be a physical fire type. Multi-strike, right there. Base 90 fire type, it gets a stab. At that point, it can hit pretty hard if you invest in attack. I know its attack stat isn't the greatest, but it can punch some holes. The nature is really messing me there. So, you know, you run an Adamant 252. I believe an Adamant 252 can 2-hit, or I'm sorry, a Modest, a special attacking Symbolic can 2-hit a Mega Aggron. That was my bad. I looked at the calculation wrong. But it gets Defog, it gets Tailwind, it gets Magic Coat, it gets Roar, it gets, you know, U-Turn, it gets Thunder Wave. It has so much support for a team. And to top it all off, it can be any type depending on how you want to bring it. And I don't even have to bring it as a type. I can be just a normal with leftovers. Or I can try and run it as a Life Orb attacker. Most of the time I am going to bring a type if it does come though. So, pretty cool stuff. I think the team is meant for destruction, and I think I drafted the way I needed to for Tapu Lele to be as successful as it can be in the Draft League format. Overall, that is it, guys. Like I said, I'm going to be throwing out videos for the Competitors Pokemon League about once a week. There might be 2 videos a week depending on how I do the team builders and if I decide to be uploading for the rest of the coaches in the league. However, expect, you know, once a week a video, week 1 matchup, week 2 matchup, same thing applies. It's going to be a 7-week-long season with playoffs, so get excited for that. Of course, show some love down in the comment section below. If you do like this video, please make sure to subscribe, as I am going to, like I said, try and throw out videos as much as I can. I do Shiny Hunt over at twitch.tv/DrC3. That's something else to note. And above all else, you know, have a fantastic day.